Well, good evening and welcome to another edition of Down the Road with Joel Heitkamp. Joel Heitkamp out today. He will be back tomorrow with Lieutenant Governor Brent Sanford. I'm Tyler Axness. I'll be taking you all the way on the drive today. Got a lot of things we'll cover. Joe Biden, President of the United States, is over. He just wrapped up a NATO meeting and summit. Tomorrow, he's visiting with Vladimir Putin. We're going to be having North Dakota State University Professor of Political Science, Dr. Ambrosio, Thomas Ambrosio, great guy. He's going to be explaining the implications, what the successes are, what the challenges are. That's all coming up also. We got a couple of lawmakers in North Dakota to break down some very heavy lifting going on. Every 10 years, we get a new census done, and in fact, with that, you have to draw new district lines. We're going to have a couple of perspectives. We are going to have State Senator Jerry Klein. He's the Assistant Majority Leader from District 14. That's up in the Fezzen area for all of our folks watching on Beck in that area. That's rural North Dakota. He's got a very big district. I'm going to get his perspective being in the majority party and a rural state senator. To start off, we're going to get the opposite of that. We're going to be visiting with House Minority Leader. Sorry about that, Joshua Boschee, who is in the metro area right here in Fargo. And he joins me right now in studio. Representative Boschee, welcome. Thanks for taking some time for us.
Thanks, Tyler. Good to be here.
Yes. Lots to uncover. I mean, I want to talk about special sessions. I want to talk about funding. But let's start redistricting because you in the last legislative session put together a package of what this process is going to look like. And where it started and where it ended, I think was a vast improvement. There's some transparency concerns that I had at the beginning. But ultimately, now we have this planned out, and you're going to be on that committee. I'm curious, being from the largest metro area in the state, what are your concerns? What are you expecting as we go forward in this process?
Well, first and foremost, I've been an advocate of making sure that we have an independent redistricting commission. I don't think it's appropriate that lawmakers choose their voters. I think we should have the voters to draw the lines and use the data to make those lines. But that was not successful this last legislative session, so this is the process that we have to work with. Being from the Fargo-Moorhead Metro, we already have the largest delegation out of Cass County. There's 33 legislators, 11 legislative districts that come out of Cass County. And based on the most recent census data, it's looking like Cass County may get an additional legislative district based on our population growth. And that's going to significantly impact southern and west Fargo, just because that's where all the growth in our communities has gone.
Yeah, for those of you watching here that have not been to Fargo, West Fargo in a little while, there is growth to where there are communities that are now coming together. Horace no longer its own separate thing. It's basically part of Southwest Fargo and Fargo. I suspect that there will be an additional district, like as you say, in that area, because there's just so much growth in population. Yes. New housing developments all the time. You as a realtor, I'm sure, know that on your with your other role. With that, I'm curious because, and I'm going to be visiting with State Senator Jerry Klein in just a little bit, and I'm going to ask him the same question. We have all this growth in the metro area, and if we stay with 47 districts, I suspect that we're going to lose a rural district. As a metro state senator, I'm curious your thoughts. Do we stay with 47 for our neighbors watching out in those rural parts? Do we adjust the number? Do we increase? Your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion this last spring while we all worked together about do we increase the number of districts. For viewers to know, the state constitution says we can have anywhere from 40 to 54 legislative districts. We're right in the middle right now with 47. There has been a push by some legislators to increase that number to 49. And what that does is it shrinks the population size for each district, which especially for rural North Dakota, shrinks the geographic footprint as well significantly. The hard part with that as we think about it is even if we add legislative districts, it's still likely that the metro areas, the Fargos, the Bismarcks, the Grand Forks, Williston, Watford City, where there's been significant growth, would still benefit the most by getting additional legislative districts. All it's going to do is shrink the size. So my solution, what I plan to propose to the committee is that at least on the House side, we have AB districts. So you split the district in the middle, you have a House member from the north side of the district, someone from the south or the east and west, however they draw the line, but that helps with representation.
As you were talking about what that would do is adding numbers, I actually wrote down in my notes here, 1A, 1B, is that something that would be offered? And apparently we're on the same page here, because that is something, and you look at some of those rural districts, that it's 3 hours from the north end to the south end, and how do you get a firm grip of what the south end needs versus the north? I mean, if go from here to, up in Grand Forks even. I mean, the needs of the Red River Valley in those 70 miles are vastly different,
Yes.
Josh.
Yeah. Exactly, and not only that, but in order to do adequate representation, those, not only are we talking about miles for those districts, but those districts also have 6 or 7 counties. How many school boards? How many water districts? How many? So that becomes a lot of conflict that those legislators have to deal with. Whereas those of us in places like the Metro, I have one school board, I have one county commission, I have one city commission to worry about and try to represent on behalf of the voters of my district.
Yeah, it adds a lot more time, obviously, to get around and actually understand. And then, I mean, just visiting with people that have different needs from one school district to the next. It just, the way it is right now, I don't think is going to be workable if we keep the same 47 and we just draw a line differently here or there.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think, we're going to be going, the population size is going to change from approximately 14,500 people in a district to about 16,500 is our initial numbers until we get the final data. But, so the population is still going to grow, but the geography for so many of my rural colleagues is going to grow as well.
I'm curious because I've seen some of the reporting on this from some of our rural neighbors in Bismarck that are representative of that area, that townships. Some of those roads have taken quite a beating over the years, and I don't think that they've been on the priority to get funded through state dollars or even federal. I mean, the coronavirus package that came out last year didn't include townships.
Right.
They're claiming that some metro area lawmakers also don't understand the needs of rural North Dakota. You as a metro area lawmaker, I'm curious your response to that.
Well, first and foremost, on behalf of our Democratic caucus, we fought hard for those township roads. It was a short sight by the federal government not to include direct funding to our townships. So I was pleased to be a part of the solution this last session where we put well over $30 million into township roads, working with egg-related groups, North Dakota Farmers Union, a number of other groups to make sure that we get that funding. The hard part is that's all one-time funding. So we have to make sure that we sustain that going forward. But, to anyone in my district, what I would say is you go hunting out there. You travel out there to go visit our great state parks with our family. Those roads are important for us to get and to enjoy our state. So just because someone lives there and uses it every day, we're going to use it as well.
Well, and I would also make the argument that I think a lot of people that now live in the metro area probably grew up in a smaller town. I mean, I was one of them. Grew up in a town of 450 people. I'm not sure what the population is now, but I've been in Fargo since. But I understand small town, rural North Dakota just as well, even though I have a 58103 zip code right now. The other aspect of all this is redistricting comes with politics. Mm-hmm. Because it is going to be the lawmakers choosing district lines, there is moments, and we've seen it in North Dakota. In fact, when my district that I was a state senator of was drawn during the last time, the House Majority Leader at the time, Al Carlson, said this will be a Republican district for the next 10 years. He was on record saying that. Right. I'm curious because the Dem NPL has such small numbers right now. That's just the reality of it. It's tough for Democrats to win anything west of I-29, and that's a 98% of the state. Have you heard rumblings? Because, even though there's politics involved, you have a good working relationship with a number of your Republican colleagues. What are you hearing? Are they going to try to cut out, say, a state senator that's a Democrat from Bismarck, or is this just we're going to wait and see? Yeah,
there's certainly... you ask any legislator and we all have 10 ideas of what's going to happen because of the politics and the personal relationships some of us have. I think first and foremost, when we look at the redistricting committee, I think we have a pretty good committee. It's a lot of reasonable folks, both from the House and the Senate. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to working with them. While certainly the Democrats have low numbers, we're in a supermajority in this state and trying to find our way back. That also means that we're not as big of a target. Certainly there might be some legislators that think that they want full Republican control, 100% of the seats in the Senate or the House. But the reality is this redistricting, especially in rural North Dakota, is going to be Republican on Republican. It's going to put Republicans against Republicans for incumbent, if we're looking at incumbency.
I've heard that same thing as well. And in fact, I was visiting with a Republican representative that I'm not going to name on statewide television here on Beck, but he was making that comment as well that, The truth is there are some Republican lawmakers in North Dakota that the majority of Republicans would rather not be working with because of the way politics has become. That it's not necessarily about solutions, it's more about getting a check mark here and finding the next thing that comes from the national level to be outraged about, to inject, and they would rather do without that. I've been hearing that some of those people might be paired up against other lawmakers, just because of the sheer numbers, but also because of the politics of it, Representative Boschee.
Yeah, I've heard very similar things. And again, when the Democrats, when our caucus were pretty concentrated in Cass County, Grand Forks County, up in the Turtle Mountain area, and then we have some folks down in Wahpeton and out in Bismarck, it certainly, it limits the opportunities to do partisan gerrymandering, but I do certainly see that there could be a potential for gerrymandering for especially folks that are part of the Boschee caucus within the Republican Party.
Well, and that's why I do hope, and if you look at the current district maps, which I know that we've been flickering on here and there throughout our conversation, it looks as though there's Tetris pieces that they just decided to throw on a map. And as long as you're on this committee, that we can get to where the lines make sense, that there's township roads, there's borders that make sense, I think it's something people can live with going forward. When's this wrap up? Going to be November? Is this when you get the plan and the session might get rolling?
Yeah, it's actually just came from a phone call earlier. That sounds like about the end of August. We'll have our first redistricting committee meeting because that's when we'll get the data from the U.S. Census Bureau. For your viewers to know, usually we would have gotten that back in April. Okay. So we would have had all this time to start having these conversations. But yes, we'll be done. We're shooting for the week of November 8th right now for a special session focused on redistricting.
You stick with me. That special session, in fact, is going to deal with a little bit more. We've got dollars that we've got to talk about from the federal government that has come in. State Representative House Minority Leader Joshua Boschee, he's going to stick with me. I'm Tyler Axness. Don't go anywhere. More down the road next.
Howdy, folks. It's a Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey-Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a combo roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness. During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close.
Call or click now and get Night Hero Binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it.
Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight, just pay a separate fee.
We'll even ship them to you free.
This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention, have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Elmiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Welcome back to Down the Road. I'm Tyler Axness, filling in today for Joel Heitkamp. You will be back tomorrow. Some news. You will be stuck with me again on Thursday. I'll tell you about that later on. Last year, a very tough year for a lot of people. Schools, businesses, perhaps you personally, your family, friends, with this pandemic. And in order to help out and mitigate some of that in 2020 and now again at the beginning of 2021, trillions of dollars federally spent going out to states, going out to businesses, going out to individuals to help alleviate some of the financial burden and the health crisis that we're facing. North Dakota in the 2020 package received $1.25 billion. Session wasn't together. Lawmakers are back home. So what that means in North Dakota, we have an emergency commission. 6 members that's headed by the governor, and in this case is Governor Burgum, was allowed to distribute those $1.25 billion. It was something that didn't really sit well with me. I thought lawmakers should have dealt themselves a hand. And they did just that this last legislative session. They said anything over $50 million that the Emergency Commission does receive from the federal government or elsewhere, they got to have a say in it as the legislature. The appropriators, the ones holding onto the purse string. Well, it turns out that, you know what, maybe the dollar amount that they put as the requirement was a little low, because tomorrow that Emergency Commission, they meet, and it sounds like there's a little distress on how to go forward. And State Representative House Minority Leader Joshua Boschee is still in studio with me over here at Down the Road. And I want to, am I wrong in supporting the changes, thinking that lawmakers should have given themselves a hand? Because you guys do hold the purse strings. Mm-hmm. I thought there was a little too much leeway in what the governor was allowed to do, but now it sounds that there's a little bit of panic setting, and not just from the governor's office, but from lawmakers about what comes next. Explain that to me.
Yeah, first and foremost, I stood with you and agreed. We wanted a special session last year to make sure that the legislature was responsible for handing out this money and allocating it for the priorities that we felt were important. So certainly wanted to see some strings or some guardrails put on the authority of the executive branch when we aren't in session. So Senate Bill 2290 was passed. I actually voted against it in every iteration we had, but I was part of a very small minority. Me and Representative Pollard, who's the House Majority Leader, were primarily, and then a few Democrats and a handful of Republicans. So it was only 19 out of 94 of us that voted against it the first time. So it was overwhelmingly popular in the House and then almost unanimous, except for Senator Tim Mathern in the Senate. So we wanted guardrails. My concern with this, and this is unfortunately what we're facing, it is an aggregate of $50 million. So it's not just every time they send us $50 million, that's the cap. It's an aggregate over a 2-year period of $50 million.
Well, that could happen on one day, the way the money's been shifting hands over the last year, 2 years.
Right. Well, and that's just it, is we didn't look any farther back than 2 years. With the pandemic, we were getting hundreds of millions at a time. I think well over $3 billion has come to the state in total so far. But prior to that, we were talking about a couple $1 million grants, $50,000 here to help buy a van for the Veterans Affairs Department, things like that. There were small allocations, but when we're talking about this much money, we really, as the legislature, tied our hands, and now that money's got to sit in the U.S. Treasury until we figure out, or until November when we meet and we can authorize it again.
November's a long time away, and there's another $1 billion+ that North Dakota should be receiving from the 2021 federal stimulus relief. I don't rescue plan or whatever fancy name they came up with it. So that money just waits.
Well, that's different. That $1 billion are actually already, I think, at the Bank of North Dakota. We already received that. So these are program dollars going to places like the Department of Human Services, the Department of Health. Maybe there's a federal program for the Department of Veterans Affairs for them to get some money. So it's outside of our allocations. It's really to do ongoing federal programs. But the uniqueness of our coronavirus economic recovery and everything that's going with it, we now are stuck with, we can't receive the money.
Unintended consequence, perhaps. Right. I imagine you know what, the governor's office has the attorney general. There's lawyers all over in that Capitol building that they're trying to find some way around this new law, I suspect, before tomorrow's meeting.
Right. Yeah, right now the way the law says is until the legislature calls itself back in or the governor calls us back in. So it requires an act of the legislature to accept over $50 million. So yeah, right now there's a conversation going about, is there anything else that we could be doing? Because this is important money. You know, I think a chunk that I read in the Bismarck Tribune article was $100 million coming to the Department of Health. And I'm sure that's money to trickle down to local public health and to help our hospitals and nursing homes with some of their recovery efforts.
Well, yeah, those that were on the front lines, testing, doing the vaccination. I mean, they used, I'm sure, a lot of resources now that they probably have to be reimbursed for. I'm curious because the legislature saved 4 days.
Right.
You've got to, as we were speaking earlier about this redistricting that's coming up at the fall. Is that going? Because that's necessary, mandatory. The governor, I think, could call you back to do that district. Any chatter? I mean, I know you were on phone calls with other lawmakers earlier before you came on with us today about, look, we got 4 days. If we got to go correct this to make sure these departments, these agencies get what they need. Any talks on that, or is it too early?
I think it's too early. You know, even as I was driving over here, you know, I'm going to make a phone call after this, but one of my first ideas is if we know the money's sitting there, and even if we have to wait till November, we have this great resource that no other state has. We have the Bank of North Dakota. Can we take out a small loan from the Bank of North Dakota, repay that? But of course, if there's strings attached to that federal money and it doesn't allow us to do something like that, we're stuck.
Let's take that for a walk for a minute, because wouldn't that have to be the emergency commission to approve the Bank of North Dakota dollars?
Yeah, North Dakota Industrial Commission, or yeah, the bank itself. There's going to be caps. We're going to have statutes, and I have to go look in that of what we can and can't do. But
I'm not trying to get you, boxed in here. I'm just thinking, well, I think that's going to put us right in the same situation.
It could. Yeah. Just trying to spitball ideas.
So maybe that's why you were right in voting against it, and I would have been wrong in voting for it. I just think when you've got, and this was an isolated time, I think that the way that North Dakota, the legislature has set up and allowed the governor, not just, this isn't a shot at Governor Burgum, just any governor. There's been an allowance of too much authority when it comes to spending. So I thought the lawmakers should get some of that rolled back. That's why I think the concept of it, clearly there needs to be some critiquing on this one individually here.
Right. And again, a challenge of us being in session for 76 days, over 800 bills we consider, a lot of moving parts, and some of these big things are pushed really quickly through certain committees because of the chairman, instead of being really vetted well and taking the time and the nuance that needs to look at them. We
have the interim, committees getting underway here. Is there, the studies I assume have been selected already, management has already done that. Is one that leaves you shaking your head? Is there one saying, I can't wait to find the results on this one? Explain kind of what you're looking forward to over the next 2 years.
Yeah, and you caught me off guard with that because, everything's swimming in my head. I think first and foremost, I'm excited to see the leadership again of the Health and Human Services Committee. The last interim, it was pretty weak, and when we came into this session, we didn't have a whole lot of movement made in human services. So it left our appropriators and those subcommittees really high and dry for a while. There is an interesting committee I think most North Dakotans they aren't aware of, but they will become aware of. It's called the Acute Psychiatric Treatment Committee. It's a really focused committee that's looking over the next 10 months to say, do we build a new hospital in Jamestown, a behavioral health hospital? Do we look at regionalizing that? What is the best way to serve North Dakotans with the assets and the infrastructure we already have and the infrastructure we have to build out?
A lot of work to do.
A lot of work.
A lot of federal dollars, and you know what? We've got a legacy fund that I think people are trying to figure out what the best appropriate way to utilize that is. And I'm curious because I know there's been working committees, not just with lawmakers, but business people about, hey, this is what we could do to invest in ourselves, leave that legacy. I know we kind of set a groundwork of what might be done in the years ahead. Was it the appropriate way to go about it? I know that there are some saying, well, we might be tying our hands here as lawmakers going forward. Or is that still kind of an open thing to where, 2 years from now, things might change. We have the ability to change what our direction is.
Correct. First and foremost, our estimates of what's coming out of the Legacy Fund are very conservative. And then beyond that, the policy can shift. And that's one of the good and the bad things as we set up some of these programs. Kind of figure out what works. Because the other thing is a lot of this money gets tied not just to dollar amounts, so $50 million to this, but usually it's percentages. That percentage grows as the number grows on the earnings.
And with the percentages, the way we go about, I know that this legislative redistricting is going to change. The discussion a little bit is, how big is the legislature? How many districts do we need? But one thing, and this is going to get me in trouble with a lot of viewers. Yeah, and this might not be the appropriate vehicle to do it, but those annual sessions or allowing you to get back together, so we're not having a conversation today about an emergency commission tomorrow trying to figure out how $100 million, $50 million sits in a bank. There seemed to be a little bit more support for an annual session this time around. We're not talking full-time legislature, so don't get mad out there about, well, we're trying to make it a permanent role. Not the case, but splitting those 80 days and sprinkling them out across 2 years. Is there going to be another push for that, do you think, going forward?
There was a really strong push this last session, and the session before that, and the session before that. But it is growing. The support is growing. You and I were first elected in 2012 together. Every year I've served, there's been a need for some reason for us to get together to look at the budget, whether it's too much money, not enough money, natural disasters, a pandemic. Yeah. I think especially after the last year, since us legislators experienced together that we couldn't go to Bismarck to get what needed to be done, we depended on the governor to call us back, or the legislative leaders who chose not to. I think there's a growing interest, and again, we want to keep it tight. We don't want to have a runaway legislature like we see in other states, but there is a reason to get back every once in a while.
Yeah, well, and I think just because how volatile commodities that we rely to budget on, and global things happen as well that have such an impact that it's something that I would be thinking about.
Right.
Representative Boschee, I appreciate it, man. You take care. Enjoy some summer. I know that you're going to be busy doing things out in Bismarck also because of, as we said, the growing area here, housing markets, all that. But I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Tyler. Always good to be here.
House Minority Leader Joshua Boschee. Here's what's coming up. For those of you on the west side of Beck's viewing audience, you're going to be pulling away from us. You can still stream us at beck.news, but you're going to be joining the Northwest Communications Co-op annual meeting. For those of you on the east side of Beck's viewing area, you stick right here because here's what's coming up. We got a couple of more guests for you. We do have the Republican and the majority on the Senate side. In fact, he's the assistant leader there. Jerry Klein from Fessenden going to be joining us talking about redistricting, about rural North Dakota. Also, Dr. Thomas Ambrosio, NDSU. Let's talk about the summit that happened with NATO in Brussels. Let's talk about Geneva. President Biden meeting with Vladimir Putin. That is coming up on Down the Road. I'm Tyler Axness. Keep it locked in right here on Beck TV.
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the third
news.
term of
a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Hey Bucks fans, if you're planning an outing, birthday, or employee appreciation night, then bring your group out to the Buck Stop for a night of fast-paced, high-scoring football. Your group will receive discounted tickets, options for reserved seating, scoreboard messages, VIP services, swag, and a space to gather during the game. You can also participate in pre-game ceremonies, halftime entertainment, in-game contests, and more. Call 701-595-0771 or visit bismarckbucks.com/tickets. All GA is first come, first serve. We'll see you on the turf. Go Bucks!
Welcome back down the road. I'm Tyler Axness filling in for Joel Heitkamp. He will be back tomorrow, again visiting with Lieutenant Governor Brent Sanford. Joined right now by State Senator, in fact, the Assistant Majority Leader, Jerry Klein from Pheasant, District 14. Let's talk redistricting in the rural parts of North Dakota, because you know what? I've lived in Jerry's district, and it is a long stretch from the north side to the south side. I'm wondering how they're going to make this work. Senator, how are you doing today?
Hey, Tyler, I'm great. But I think you hit on it. A lot of discussion about the fact that we have a lot of geography out here and not a whole lot of citizens, and how we as what we believe rural legislators are going to handle this whole redistricting.
Well, I imagine, you know, the very northern tip of your district and the very southern tip, I mean, that's a couple hours drive, and to keep a track of every school district, to keep track of every, county board, every city commission, township, it's all got to be very cumbersome. And hearing what the information from this last census was, Senator, that, you know what, places where I live now in the metro area, we've been growing a little bit, and with that's going to probably come another legislative district. I'm worried about my rural neighbors. Are we going to be losing some of those districts to where, you know what, you're going to, instead of driving 3 hours, you'll be driving 4? Explain where we're at right now.
Well, Tyler, the way it seems to be shaping up, and you are absolutely correct. Our metro areas, our Bismarcks, our Fargos, and certainly the probably one of the concerns that has been created is with Western North Dakota and the fact that Williston has really pumped up their population. So you're absolutely right. We are going to we're going to have a shrinking of rural districts, or in numbers, but an increase in geography. There's just no way around that. We've added, about 100,000 people in this last census. You take that, it's looking to me like if District 14 should survive, that we will be looking at, I'm looking for about 2,000 people. And I was pretty excited that we had held our own if the population had stayed steady, but certainly you're going to see an increase of districts in Fargo, maybe Bismarck. Western North Dakota certainly is going to have something, and with that, it means that somebody out here is going to go away.
Well, that leads me to this question. I mean, we're not set in stone with 47 districts. We do have limitations on how low and how high we can go, and I know this work that's going to be done over the next couple of months and drawing those lines. Sounds like everything might be on the table for discussion. I'm curious your thoughts as far as, do you increase, do you go to 49, or do we keep it steady at 47 and just find a way to make it work, Senator?
Well, Tyler, I was here when we were at 49, and in 2001, when we moved down to 47, of course, our population was declining, and we had to figure out, as the population declines, maybe we need less districts. South Dakota's operating with 35. How efficient are they? I don't know, but I know I think in one of your comments where that's a lot of county commission meetings, that's a lot of school boards, that's a lot of other areas that people are interested in. But when it all gets boiled down there, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of political will to move it any higher than 47. You divide 47 or 49. Either I need 2,000 or 1,500. It's going to be it's a head scratcher no matter which direction we go. And I am up for looking at every potential possibility. I want to save as many rural communities, but certainly we owe the cities and the growth that they have. We owe them their proper amount of representation.
Yeah, where I sit, where I call home. When I'm from up in that area, a town of 450 people. Now I'm in the largest growing, fastest growing spot of the state. What I do worry about is, when we start getting, I think Fargo or the Cass County area, we found out earlier on down the road, has 11 districts. That's 33 people that really represent just this area. And I'm thinking about those township roads that, seem to get left on the back burner. And as you're well aware, you used to own a grocery store that, look, what grows on that field needs to get to, the plant, to get to the elevator, to get finally on the shelf so you can sell it. So to me, in the city, that's where I don't want to lose a district, and I'm not sure that adding one's there, but I hope at least the discussion's there, Senator.
Well, I think the discussion is there. And, the other thing that what does concern me is that, 20 years ago, most of the legislators were just maybe one generation off the farm. Well, now it's more. Yeah. And as we lose that sort of representation, but I think, with Operation Prairie Dog, for example, it was an opportunity, and unfortunately it probably didn't quite pan out, but certainly is still there. The mechanism is still there. It was to help our rural communities outside of the oil patch, and we've got to continue. And I know there's some true advocates for township roads, and we were able to pull some money together to provide some of that for those township roads. But yes, long after oil's gone, I still think we're going to be raising wheat and sunflowers and soybeans and corn out here. So we still have to get that to market, and the market seems to well, as long as it's coming closer, we can start processing some of those soybeans in North Dakota, and we are doing some canola. It's more opportunity. But yes, there are concerns, and we're going to be putting some of our friends in the same sort of box, so to speak, and that might be your next question, because it's always a challenge.
It is, and in fact, it is as though you read my mind, because with this, and I'd asked this on the Democratic side before I was joined with you on the majority side, that look at the district line. Yes, it comes down to numbers, it comes down to math, but there's politics involved as well. And I know we came out of a how do I say, unique legislative session. There was a lot of distractions, I think, from some of the very good work that was done. Is there any chatter on maybe, do you want to spill any beans on what might be taking place of, well, you know what, this area, these two might be together and we'll see who the victor is, or is that, we'll just have to wait and see when November rolls around?
Well, let's just say we have to wait and see what November rolls around. But as well as I do, with and you've been there, and you understand how this works. In 11, we wound up with a couple of Democrats. Well, Senator Taylor, Senator O'Connell. We had Senator Olafson and Senator Miller. We had John Nelson, Representative Nelson, and with Representative Craig. Those things are going to happen, and we, certainly being the majority party and having majority, we're going to have some of our friends and colleagues, and to maintain. And I think the effort is going to really, there's going to be a lot of effort to make sure that we stay within the county lines as good as we possibly can to get those numbers.
Well, and I'm happy that you left it there, because I always joke around. My district was one of those new ones in 2011 here in Fargo, and it's like two big Tetris pieces just plopped down on a map. So as long as we keep it with those county lines to where they make sense, you know what? I get it's a tough task ahead. We'll be following along. Senator, I'm out of time today. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and we'll talk again soon. All right.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Senator Jerry Klein, Fessenden, District 14, redistricting. There's a heavy lift. There's going to be a lot of work, a lot of chatter going on in the months ahead. And you know what? We're going to find out throughout that process. There is the open records to where we can watch and follow along with that new technology as well, and see exactly what district you might be living in next. Speaking of next, Dr. Thomas Ambrosio, NDSU. Let's talk about NATO. Let's talk about Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden. That's next year on Down the Road.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty. You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after-hours oasis of sanity.
How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Lee Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Welcome back to Down the Road. I'm Tyler Axness, filling in for Joel Heitkamp, who will be back tomorrow to take you further on down the road. I'm back in studio on Thursday. What's happening now around the world? You've got global leaders just wrapped up. The NATO summit over in Brussels wrapped up yesterday. In fact, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, in Geneva tomorrow, he's meeting with Vladimir Putin with Russia. Every time I think about international politics, I think about none other than NDSU's Dr. Thomas Ambrosio, who's joining us right now to explain the good, the bad, what are the challenges going on a global scale for the United States. Dr. Ambrosio, I appreciate your time today. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking time. I always learn so dang much whenever I get a chance to visit with you, whether that was being one of your students at NDSU or, just having these follow-ups here. NATO, it wrapped up. I'm curious, there's been a number of things that's happened over the last few years. I guess a change in the way of which the United States has been involved with these groups, how the relationships have evolved over the last 3, 4, you can go back 6 years. How does that switch from the previous administration to this one impact relationships that we just had with NATO over this week?
Well, President Trump was very much of the opinion that our allies needed to do more. And that was actually not that far out of step from his predecessor, President Obama, who I believe referred to NATO allies as freeloaders. But of course, Trump did things kind of in the Trump way. We're playing up the problems of the NATO alliance and kind of downplaying our commitments to them. whereas it was kind of the reverse for the previous administration. I mean, there is a fundamental problem here. The United States is providing security for Europe, and the Europeans are not providing enough security for themselves. Even though the geopolitics of the region have changed. Now we have a resurgent Russia. And there's some commitment, at least verbal commitment by the NATO allies to do more. But I'm not even sure what do more means. Not necessarily, I mean, you could say spending money is easy to look at. But, I mean, there are problems within the NATO alliance in terms of its focus. Internally, you know, Germany is just signed the Nord Stream 2 deal with Russia, or that's coming through, which makes Germany more reliant on Russia, which we oppose, and then we're less opposed to it now. But NATO itself is looking for a mission. And there seems to be this new document that came out that our new mission is going to be focusing on China, which is actually pretty smart because that's really where the action is.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was going to lead into as far as, you know, we spent a lot of time with NATO saying, look, we're pushing back the wall against Russia, but now you've got this surge in China happening. And over the last few years, people say, look, you know what, while you guys are talking about Russia, here we are watching China. We had a trade war. Some of that might be getting resolved. I mean, there's still time will tell on that, especially for our agricultural viewers here. But China, I suspect you're going to be saying that that's the biggest challenge the United States faces right now on a global scale?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question that in many ways this has been a challenge that we've been facing for, well, quite frankly, 2 decades. Of course, 9/11 took our eye off that ball, and China benefited from that. China is certainly regionally what they call in the, you know, in the field as a peer competitor. If we had a conflict with China right now, I don't know if we would win, quite frankly. We would probably lose, at least in East Asia. China is increasing its influence throughout the Indo-Pacific region, into Africa, into Europe, and certainly South Asia. So we're starting to see this real potential threat, geopolitical threat to our position within the region. But also China's become more assertive. Whereas China wanted to have a policy that went underneath the radar, now they're just like, nope, we're here, and deal with it.
Well, and that's why I'm curious, because with the NATO summit that just wrapped up saying, look, China's the biggest threat, I think about other pacts that we had that was trying to mitigate the growth in China with the Trans-Pacific Partnership that has gone away. Is it going to take not a unilateral approach, as you were just correctly saying, you know, because of what's going on in China, their growing influence and where we sit? Is it going to take a global effort? This NATO, is this going to be enough as far as now they got a mission? At least it sounds good on paper and in a news clip. Is it going to do anything to maybe offset the growth that we're seeing exponentially over in China?
Very, very little. I think it could blunt China's influence. I think that's going to be really the key. But China's rise is, at this point, inexorable. It's going to be not necessarily a Cold War, but something very much like that. And we're already seeing that. We're seeing a competition for influence. Now, we certainly have advantages, but I think what, if anything, having NATO together against, or, you know, with the United States vis-a-vis China sends a message to other countries that there is an alternative to China, and that you do not need to bandwagon with China. You can side with the West. And part of it is also a realization that there is a threat here. That's been happening now for a couple of years.
Yeah, kind of keeping the blankets over our eyes and just hoping that it would go away in the night, and that wasn't the correct approach. Quickly, I've only got about 2 minutes left with you. This time goes by too dang fast. Tomorrow, President Joe Biden visiting with Vladimir Putin. Tensions are there. I mean, no one can deny that. I'm curious what you're going to be watching for in this meeting. That's going to be behind closed doors, but what do you suspect that they're going to be discussing?
Well, they're going to be discussing a lot of interesting issues. One would hope they're honest with each other, and in particular for Russia saying, look, these are certain red lines that if you cross, then we're going to have a real problem. and those red lines are Belarus, Ukraine, and trying to overthrow the government in Russia. However, we are committed to promoting democracy in Belarus, committed militarily to Ukraine in some way, and talking about possibly letting them into NATO. And we are still committed to regime change in Russia. And this puts us on a collision path. One that, yes, the summit will have some niceties and they will talk about how they're looking forward to cooperation. But the reality is the fundamentals won't change. We are on a path of great power confrontation with China, who's in an alliance with Russia. And that is going to be shaping the world for the near to medium-term future.
Well, that gives our viewers a lot of comfort so they can rest easy tonight that, hey, everything's going swell out there on the global scale when it comes to NATO, when it comes to Russia, China, and, of course, right here at home with the United States. Dr. Ambrosio, is there anything else that I missed that you want to get out in the minutes time that I have?
The only thing I would say is that we are in a time of transition right now, similar to one that we faced in the late 80s, early 90s. The world that we grew up with, is gone. And we're looking towards a new world order, which is very scary and very uncertain, which not very, positive, but the world of international politics is very pessimistic generally.
Yeah, well, and that's probably why I follow along with it so much, because people claim I'm a pessimistic individual as well, especially if you listen to the radio show. Dr. Ambrosio, I appreciate your time today. I know it's kind of in that period where you're not maybe too busy because students aren't necessarily there, unless, of course, you're like I was, taking the summer course from you. But you know what? You took some time, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas Ambrosio, NDSU political science. He knows a lot about a lot of things, especially on the international scale. When we come back, I got some thoughts about what's going on here domestically. Anger. Are people addicted to it? We'll talk about it next, right here on Down the Road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Spas, etc.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you could pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Main and Bismarck.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome?
In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
On the final stretch of Down the Road here, I'm Tyler Axness. Joel Heitkamp will be back tomorrow. Again, Lieutenant Governor Brent Sanford. You're stuck with me yet again on Thursday, so you've been warned. You know, folks, it seems though you can go online or you can watch anything on the news, and it seems as though there's an altercation of some sort. People seem pretty angry. And angry over what could be little things, store policies. In the midst of a pandemic. It could be something as little as just something that triggered you on the drive to work, but boy, do people seem angry. And it seems as though there's an addiction to anger. I know that there's a routine for a lot of people that you wake up, first thing you do is you grab your phone, you start scrolling on social media and see what it is that's the driving force that's upsetting a lot of people today. Or maybe you click onto one of the media channels that, it certainly has a slant, or the commentary that is just out there to force upon you something to be outraged about. But I got to tell you, what's going on right now isn't exactly healthy, the way of which we are visiting with one another, especially those that we don't think agree or vote the same way we do. You know what? We just got done visiting with Dr. Ambrosio about some challenges that we as a country have on a global scale. Russia, China, North Korea. And instead, we find some of our neighbors looking adoringly at some of the actions from their leaders because it upsets some of their neighbors that might not be of the same political ilk. And that is wrong, ladies and gentlemen. We are all in this together. But unfortunately, because of this anger that has become an addiction, I think, for a lot of people, that we don't look for solutions. We don't look to get things done. We look to get even for some perceived slight that happened. It's to get even with the other side, politically speaking, to own the others. It's not just in politics. It's been on school boards. It's been at city commissions. It's been at grocery stores. This whole anger that's been going on, I hope we can find a way to move past it, because it has consumed so much of our day-to-day. Neighbors, family, not even talking to each other right now because of politics in some sort, or because of something they saw online, or because of, some meme that questions something that maybe a scientist or a historian said. It's summer. It's nice out. I hope that we can find a way to move past this anger, to get out and enjoy and to appreciate one another even when we disagree. Let go of that anger as we move forward here in 2021. Folks, that's it for me this week. I'm Tyler Axness. Thanks for joining us on Down the Road. Joel Heitkamp will be back tomorrow.